So just the other day, I asked all of you guys who play Fallout 76 what you think the public has gotten wrong about the game. What makes it worth playing? Why have you had so much fun with it? And honestly, I got back some really interesting feedback, and I was surprised that pretty much all of the responses centered around one aspect of Fallout 76 that made it worth trying again 5 years after its launch. And put simply, that is the community. Dean said, man, the community on the West Coast USA was so nice to me as an Aussie. Plenty of older people, I was 20, playing it who were so nice and gave me resources and explanations that the game did not give me. Walking with these people through a Fallout world was so much fun, and learning about them I'm sure was great as well. Or it's Gray Hat, literally just the community. It's so damn friendly and wholesome. When I first joined, I had 2 people waiting for me outside of the vault. One guy dropped me a level 1 fully upgraded hunting rifle with about 60 rounds of ammo, and the other guy dropped me an F-load of food, stim packs, basic building blueprints, so I didn't have to waste caps buying off vendors. And I've done the exact same thing to new players myself as well. It's like this cycle of, yeah, this game isn't very good. Here's something to make your suffering a little bit easier. Not to mention the insane amount of talent some people have when building camps. It's insane, especially if they're grandfathered players with legacy and OG building clutter and items. All told, it seems like the community. In fact, if I just do a Control F and search community, you will see just how many times that comes up when people discuss what's good about Fallout 76. And this got me really excited because it reminded me of a statement from Shigeru Miyamoto, who famously said, "A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad." And without a doubt, Fallout 76 was incredibly rushed when it launched. However, the one thing that can sort of save a rushed game or a bad game is a tremendous community that justifies exploring and enjoying that game. In the same way that I have watched really awful B-grade, even C-grade movies, and by themselves they would be totally lackluster, but when watching them with friends and enjoying the camaraderie and the jokes and gags that people can poke and prod about the film while you're watching it, it can make something bad actually pretty good because the community justifies it in a really interesting way. So for this video, I decided to go back and try Fallout 76. Over the last 3 days, I've actually been playing a lot of Fallout 76, including a stream over on my second channel, Luke Stevens Live. Just search Luke Stevens Live in the search bar, or I'll have a link to the whole stream in the comment section below. First things first, the Xbox Game Pass launcher is still a broken pile of garbage. I tried installing Fallout 76. It took me a couple of tries. Eventually, once I hit install and I just left it to sit in the launcher for about 12 hours, eventually it figured out its crap and installed the game. However, when I hit play, as you can see in this little recording I made, nothing will happen. You just can't launch the game. It like starts the launcher and then closes. Reboots don't fix it. Making sure we're totally updated, graphics drivers and everything are installed doesn't fix it. The launcher on PC for me is just totally broken. Some people have said reinstall the Microsoft Store. I guess I could try that, but frankly, it seems ridiculous that I have to go through all of these stoops just to get the game running when Xbox is owned by Microsoft, the creators of freaking Windows. So right off the bat, I'm not that thrilled with how the PC support is for Game Pass. It's totally unacceptable in my view, but it's been like this for years and they have not fixed it. It was an issue with Redfall and it's still an issue here. So I'm just gonna throw that out there, complain about it now, and then we'll just move on. But because I was committed to getting this video done, I decided to buy a copy of the game on Steam and to play through it there. I downloaded it. Notably though, it does try to download the public test server at the same time. So if you're looking at getting the game through G2A or Kinguin or some secondary key source to save some money, instead of playing it on the Xbox Game Store, just know that doing that will also automatically download the public test server unless you manually close it, which will effectively double the download size to like 160 gigs instead of just 80. So definitely check that when you are downloading it. But after that, when you have it downloaded on Steam, you just hit play and then the game starts. How refreshing is that?
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
Also, something to note, I am playing this on an ultra wide monitor, which is why the aspect ratio looks the way it does. It's basically just a really fancy schmancy monitor that LG sent me a month or so back. I love this thing dearly, but it has an ultra wide aspect ratio. So it's not going to fill up the frame in the same way that a 16:9 monitor would, but it still allows us to get a wider field of view. So it should at the very least offer you a different perspective of how the game runs with ultra wide, a more niche application certainly. The other thing to note is that this game is running in all of the footage you're going to be seeing through this video on the highest possible settings. Every single setting has been cranked to the max, so I don't want to hear anybody saying, oh, Luke had the settings low, which is why it doesn't look great. No, just frankly, this game is not very good looking. Listen, I understand it's 5 years old. I understand it's an MMO effectively. It's not really fair to bash it for not living up to modern visual or graphical standards. I get that. However, I just want to note, the game is really, I mean, frankly, just it's ugly, especially when you get out into the world and you start exploring. Even cranked on a 4090, which is what my computer is running, it just does not run very well. I can't get above 80 to 85 frames a second, and that's running with only about 28% GPU utilization. The game's just not optimized well. The other thing to note is that all of the heavy monetization is still here. So the Atomic Shop that got so much crap when the game first launched for its egregious pricing, it's all still here. I mean, we're talking $14 skins for power armor. We're talking very, very expensive bundles for crafting your base and stuff. I understand some people really love this, and honestly, if you're really into Fallout 76, I can understand why you might like that and might be compelled to do it. And of course, the thing that got the most hate when it first launched, and it somehow is still in the game, is Fallout First, which if we hit V, this thing is like a subscription service to the game that gives you all sorts of different gameplay boosts, private worlds, that type of thing. And in fact, if we back out, you can actually see when we hit play, this whole custom world thing is locked behind this paywall. I understand this is common for video games that are multiplayer, MMO, that type of thing, but this is still not technically free to play, okay? This is still $40 on Steam, $10 if you get it through a secondary service like G2A or Kinguin. And yeah, it's on Game Pass, but Game Pass you still have to pay for. You're still paying for access to this game, though you're also paying for access to a ton of other things. Or like me, you just can't get the game running on PC through Game Pass. So because you need to make a video on the game, you just end up wasting money elsewhere. But it's still not free to play. So the fact that you have to pay to get access to the game and then they're still charging you this is kind of egregious to me. And even more egregious is the price. Fallout First for $12.99 a month or $100 for the year.
Jesus Christ!
$100 for the year. They have it in the game because there are people who are paying that amount, the hardcore people that have been playing this game for years. But my commitment was to try this game as a regular player. So what I've done is I've disguised my name as I've played this game for the last few days. I have intentionally not asked community members to join me and show me the ropes. I've wanted to try and play this game like any normal person that's not a YouTuber would experience it. And frankly, I'm glad that I've played the game that way, because the experience you have when you are sort of like a niche public figure in the gaming space versus the experience of a regular player, it's very, very different. When I tried Star Citizen a little while back, about 6 months ago, I went and I played with a bunch of community members. A bunch of people who saw that I was trying Star Citizen came in, showed me their ships, showed me the ropes, helped me get started, gave me a bunch of in-game currency so I could buy some fancy ships and stuff for videos, and it was pretty cool. But that experience was in no way reflective of the average experience for 99% of players. And in fact, since that video went up and has started creeping mighty close to 1 million views, I'll have it linked in the description box below if you want to check it out, there have been even more people who have found me on Star Citizen servers that send me money, send me things in the game, just cause for some reason you guys like sending me and other creators stuff. Like, stop it, we're doing fine. I mean, I appreciate it, but like, you really don't need to do that. And the problem is that a lot of creators will then say, oh, I had a great time with Star Citizen or with Fallout 76 because they were playing the game and they got effectively special treatment from the community, and it wasn't indicative of what the average consumer would experience were they to play the game themselves. So for this game, I intentionally avoided all of that, just trying to experience Fallout 76 as a fresh player, as a noob, quote unquote, just to see what it's like. And listen, all of this is anecdotal because it is, at the end of the day, oh, that was some crazy popping. It is just personal experience, okay? Like, nothing I'm about to describe as for my personal experience with this is indicative of what your experience may be. You might have better luck with it. But in my experience, if we pull up the map right now, 99% of the time while playing Fallout 76, there are other players in the server, like EK Green over here. Maybe they're watching the video right now. You never know. Or Tim or Zaludmug 97. I was born in 1997 as well. That's cool. I bet that's why that's 97. Or oh Jesus, S Chrisman 3, level 1255. There's all of these players in the servers, and you can see them all over the place. But for the most part, people stick to themselves or to their partners. As you can see here, there's a public team leader. And often there's not a lot of overlap. I am not on the pacifist mode right now. People are allowed to attack me, but I've never had to deal with griefers or anything in this game. A sign of a healthy community that you don't have to deal with that level of toxicity, certainly. But in terms of player interaction, it's not very common to just organically see something. You really have to seek out other players if you want that level of interaction. And for some people, that's great. It's just like, oh, it's a Fallout game that you can play with some of your friends. That's awesome. But for others who were hoping that this would be a game that offers more organic encounters with other players, it's just simply not going to happen. You have to seek them out and they have to be willing to put up with you. But if we go over here and let's try to do like an actual event. Over here, you see there's some camps set up. People are having a good time over here doing various things and activities with their friends. But if we want to go to like a public world event, let's go here, join the event for 4 caps. We're going to load over and join this event that's happening in real time. Now, sometimes other players will also join the event. Other times they won't, and you just kind of go with it. You can see it just spawned me into this area with some ghouls already around. So we're just in the event, we're doing it, and we're on a timed event. We got 9.5 minutes. It's behind my face to get through this. So I guess we'll just start chipping away at them. Now, while doing this, I will describe some of the things we encountered while trying this game on Steam. And that is a handful of visual bugs, a handful of little things. At one point, I got stuck behind a door and had to wait a solid 20-30 seconds for the game to just sort of fix itself. And while none of those issues are game breaking, they certainly are disruptive. And I think that that's going to come down to a personal preference. For some people, they can tolerate more of those bugs than others. Personally, I get distracted whenever I see major visual bugs pop in, that type of thing. It really pulls me out of the game. I understand other people have a much higher tolerance for it, but I just personally find it kind of annoying and disruptive. There's other things that aren't really coming through the video as well. If I pull up the performance overlay right here, you can see that we're only at 70 frames, 75 frames maybe, and at 33% GPU utilization, 14 to 15% CPU utilization. It's just not very well optimized at all. But despite that, even though we're at about 75 frames a second, whenever I move the camera, and I don't know how else to describe this, it looks as though the world is chopping as it moves across the screen. Almost like the world movement is at 60 frames, but then the gun movement's at 75. You can kind of see some stuttering on his hands a little bit. You see that kind of jagged movement. It's really strange. Honestly, I've never seen that in another first-person shooter multiplayer game. I don't know what would be causing that, but this weird jagged behavior when turning is really jarring. And I don't know if I'm just not used to it. I don't know if this is something I've tuned out in other games, but it's really like messing with my motion sickness that I struggle with in some first person games. And not in a fun way or a good way. Like it's very disruptive. There's also little weird things like with AI tracking, the NPCs and some enemies don't aggro when you think they should, or you come upon them and they're just kind of sitting there doing nothing. It's a little weird, and it doesn't always feel super consistent as to why they're behaving one way or another. Again, not like game breaking, but just a little distracting and perhaps even disruptive. Just annoying enough for you to notice it, but not like a huge deal. I mentioned this on stream, but the way that I would probably describe Fallout 76 after playing it for a couple of days is that I think it is almost like a sort of crappy meal that you get at a restaurant you went to when you were a kid that you have like a lot of nostalgic bias towards. And so when you finally go back to that restaurant after all this time away and you're looking forward to it because you remember loving that restaurant so much as a kid, they bring out the plate of food to you and it's like undercooked. It has little bits of plastic and maybe some of the chef's hair in it. And it's just not what you were expecting. And it's really disappointing. It's borderline just totally unacceptable in the state that they bring it to you. Is it like totally inedible? No, you can like pick out the plastic and the hairs. You can send it back to the chef and have him cook it up again and maybe get it closer to well done or medium rare, whatever you were hoping it to be cooked at. And you could get it to the point where you could eat it. And it still probably isn't going to be that good, but at least you'll be able to get it down and it's sort of tolerable. That's what Fallout 76 is like. It's a crappy meal from a company that you used to love that just leaves you baffled that they couldn't do better. Except the difference between that and Fallout 76 is that, at least in the analogy or the comparison, maybe that restaurant honestly just was trying and then wasn't able to live up to that expectation. Whereas with Fallout 76, what they did was, like, in my opinion, straight up evil. They knew Fallout 76 was broken. They knew it was horrible. And they still sold it to their customers anyway, because they knew that they could get away with it, which is why I actually ended up getting blacklisted from Bethesda Game Studios and other Bethesda Softworks games for review, because back then I made a video in 2018 saying that I couldn't explain the behavior of Bethesda's management in any other way than just saying that it was evil. It was a bunch of troglodytic, megalomaniacal, evil, amoral executives that decided to screw over their fans and their customers for sake of quick profits to make their company look more interesting to a potential buyer, which eventually came in the form of Microsoft. And of course, they didn't really like me calling them evil, so they don't respond to my emails anymore, which I totally get. But you know what? If you do something evil as a company to your customers, especially in the gaming space, which I very much hold near and dear to my heart, I'm going to call you out. And frankly, I'm not willing to just casually forgive Bethesda because I liked Fallout 3 or because I liked Skyrim, which I did. But what they did with this game was borderline criminal, which is why there are still ongoing multiple class action lawsuits. Oh, there's another player. Should we aggro him? Should we go up and say hi? Oh, he's going to like curb stomp, one shot all of these guys. Hi. Hi. He's got the guns, man. Tell you what. These are all level 9 and he's level, what, 580. Jesus. But like, I'm not willing to just forgive Bethesda for that. And that's something I've disagreed with some other creators on that are getting hyped for like Starfield. I'm interested in Starfield, but in no way am I expecting it to be really, really good, because frankly, the last thing that they did, Fallout 76, is like actually horrible. Like, it's not just bad, it's terrible in a lot of ways. And that launch, everything they did from the canvas bags to the Nuka rum, I mean, just watch the internet historian video on it and you'll see just how horrible it is. He has a jetpack and he's taken off. Oh, he's going over there to clear these guys. This is indicative of my experience with the community. Mostly it's guys that are coming along, they'll help you out, but usually the interaction kind of stops there. And so far, most of my experience in Fallout 76 has been basically this. We run around, we shoot some guys, we collect some goodies, and then we move on to the next area where we might be able to collect some more stuff, and we just kind of chip along that way. And you can have fun with it. It's not bad, but it does make you question whether or not this is like the best way to do this or play this type of game. Frankly, there's a lot of other open world looter shooters, whether you look at, you know, something like Warframe or Destiny or any of these other free-to-play options that frankly have better movement, they have tighter gunplay, they have better AI, they're updated constantly with new stuff. And again, they're free to play. They're not monetized out the ass while also charging you for access. And so while I can absolutely understand how some people have played this and found a community that justifies the time within the game, as a game itself, I think even they would agree that it's not very good, and it might not even be a passable game, but the community is what makes it enjoyable for them. Going back to these comments on that poll I posted, this one from Grey Hat that we read, it's like this cycle of, yeah, this game isn't very good, here's something to make your suffering a bit easier. And I think that's the sentiment that's perhaps important to remember here, is that the people in here are kind of all suffering through this together, and that builds the community even further. It's almost like it's a community, almost like an AA meeting for people who struggle with Bethesda jank and crappy and poorly optimized Bethesda games, but they all come together and struggle, bust through it together and deal with it and share resources and help themselves along. And it's wonderful to see. I'm glad the community is there and is able to support each other. But for me, frankly, when I'm playing a game, I hope to have a game that's worth playing for its own sake. And while there certainly is a community here that can justify the game for some people, my exposure to the game playing anonymously for a few days has been fun. There's people in here that, you know, build really cool bases, as you can see, just rocking and rolling. But the clunk and frankly unfun nature of this game, because Fallout 76 at its core is still the same buggy, busted, broken game that it was all those years ago. In fact, the YouTuber Patrician TV actually put this really, really well in his YouTube video recently, about a week ago actually, on Fallout 76. And this was brought to my attention by somebody in chat when we were discussing Fallout 76. And I went to the video and I found the quotation, and I thought it was just brilliant. And I've never heard this analogy before, but I thought it was wonderful. Just listen to this, okay?
I mean, a key feature of a burning dumpster is the fire. Put that out and it's just a box full of trash again.
Which is exactly what Fallout 76 is. It started as a dumpster fire, but once you put out the fire, yeah, good job, it's no longer on fire, but it's still a dumpster full of garbage. Like, you haven't actually fixed the core problem. It's the same thing that happened with Redfall, where Redfall comes out and it's just not great. It's just a bad game, but it's also broken. So even after they fix it, even after all the patches come out and Redfall's running at 200 frames a second on a microwave and it runs at 8K and it's just a gorgeous game that's super polished, it will still be a bad game because its issues are many. It's not just that it's an unoptimized broken pile of garbage, it's that it's a broken pile of garbage that's unoptimized, and it's just not a very fun game, and there's just not much meat on the bone. And Fallout 76 is the same thing in my view. Yeah, they've done some bug fixing and patching, but it's still, I would say, not enough. The game still runs really, really poorly. And even with that, after all those patches and bugs, 5 years after its launch, feel old yet? I know, I totally do. It still hasn't seen the content improvement it needs. It has NPCs now, thanks to the Wastelanders update, and they actually divert you from the main story immediately to go and talk to those NPCs because they found that players overwhelmingly wanted them. But even then, the narrative is almost completely nonsensical. It's bland and boring. The characters are extremely dry, and the whole game feels as though it's a hodgepodge of 15 bad ideas tossed together into a game that's built to sell you stupid, lazy microtransactions. I've thought about going through Fallout 76 for like 100 hours and then doing a really intense deep dive of the game, a big critique of it, but honestly, I receive zero dopamine while playing Fallout 76, and I think for me to put myself through 100 hours of it would be so frustrating and mind-numbingly miserable that I would sink into a solipsistic coma in a matter of days. So I don't think I'm going to do that, but if you want to hear a deep dive that's actually really interesting and worth your time, again, I highly recommend going and checking out Patrician TV. I just found this guy thanks to somebody in chat and does really good stuff, so shout out. Very well done. I'll have this linked below if you want to go check it out. Okay, definitely recommend. But my closing thoughts are that while there is a community here that justifies playing the game for some people, I don't think that justifies Fallout 76. It justifies the community, and that's wonderful. There's amazing people that play this game and have a great time while playing it and share that love and care with other people in the community that are playing it. But frankly, that's much more a credit to those fans and those players than it is to Fallout 76 or to Bethesda as a company. I frankly am just not going to put my time, effort, and money into a game like this when it still runs this poorly 5 years later, and it's coming from a company that tried to do something very unethical pretty recently, and they never strictly apologized for it. In fact, they consistently made it much worse, with even worse behavior in the months and the years following the initial debacle. This game is why I'm so skeptical, shout out Proud Skeptic, of Starfield, because this is the last game we have from Bethesda Game Studios, and I understand it was primarily Bethesda Game Studios Austin. However, recent reporting has said that a lot of help did in fact come from Bethesda Game Studios Maryland and the team that Todd Howard heads up that's working on Starfield right now. This is why I'm concerned about it, because when your last game was this, there's reason to be concerned about your future projects and your capability to meet expectations or even meet basic standards of quality. So although I was excited to try Fallout 76 again, and I've put in a good amount of time at this point on both Xbox, my save over on my Series S, and on PC, frankly, I don't see it, guys. I'm glad you're loving it. I'm glad you're enjoying the game and that you have a community that justifies it for you, but I'm not seeing it, and I'm not going to put myself through that misery. I'll play with my friends and my community in other games that run a little better and that are not made by companies that tried to scam me. That's my position. Also, if you want to represent your position as a proud skeptic, shout out to the Super Soft Ultra Luxury t-shirt, head over to the one and only LukeStevensTV.com. Link right down there. You can see it right there, LukeStevensTV.com, and get yourself a Skeptic Collection t-shirt or mug, whatever you prefer, if you want to represent your proud skepticism and make me proud. You'll also be supporting the channel. Super awesome, LukeStevensTV.com. And plus, if you happen to purchase one of these, I will send you a personalized thank you video on my cell phone, kind of like a cameo. It's something cool that Fourth Wall actually supports, which is the partner I have for this merchandise store and website. So go check it out. Plus, the website's just kind of fun because you can connect these nodes. We spent like so much time and coding getting this working consistently, which was probably not a very reasonable use of our time, but hey, I mean, it's cool. So even if you don't buy anything, go check out the website just for these cool nodes. It's weirdly satisfying. Like my ADHD is just like, oh, so many lines. That's going to do it for me. If you want to hang out with me live and see me play these games in real time for these videos, check out Luke Stevens Live in the search bar. I also stream my new podcast that I do with the one and only Jor Raptor over there. We just started it. We're on every major podcasting platform. I'll also have all of that stuff linked in the description box below. But enough plugs. Thank you for watching. I love all of you dearly. You're making my dreams come true. This is actually a dream. I had a dream when I was a kid of doing this for a living, and now I'm actually doing it. So truly, thank you. I wouldn't be able to do all of this without your support, your views, your time. Never think I take it for granted. I really do appreciate you. Thank you for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.